Hey everybody, this is Pastor Sam Rambo with the Knowledge Revolution podcast. I'm super excited for this new show. What it's going to be is just kind of a forum for me to just kind of voice what I feel like I'm supposed to say in different seasons and time. Basically, what's going on right now with me is I feel like the Lord has been telling me to speak up and to be able to say some new things. This podcast is to just kind of I don't really want to say enlighten people, because I think that's a dumb way to say it. But what I want to do is kind of break people out of the mind prisons that we've made in ourselves. Basically, what a lot of people like to do is they like to voice their opinions, and then they like to hear the same opinions come back to them. And we like to live in echo chambers because we feel completely accepted. This is a dangerous thing for a lot of people, because what tends to happen when you kind of find yourself in that echo chamber is you start to lose perspective, and you start to lose kind of a good grip on reality. So what this podcast is supposed to do is kind of trying to shake the foundations of your mind so that you can be reforged into a brand new way of living, where you're thinking deeply through a lot of different things, getting different perspectives. Now, this is not a opinion podcast. This isn't supposed to be me just talking about issues and whatever I think about them. I actually want to work hard on this podcast to kind of show people and kind of get people to get to a different point in their life. I want this to be a growing podcast. I want people to experience something new with this. I don't want them just to hear opinions. For me, what I want is I want to try to get to the truth of the matter. I don't want to just kind of stall out and just kind of say what I think. I want to actually get to the truth. And if I ever start talking about something that is pretty divisive, what I would like to do is kind of talk about it from both sides and really give it a voice and, really do that. So that's the point of the podcast. Something I like to do while I preach on Sundays is I like to recap so everybody knows what's going on. So hopefully throughout the videos we can do some good recaps so you guys can just really understand what we're trying to say and what we're trying to do. I think what happens a lot is people get kind of lost in the shuffle, and then they forget what was going on in the first place. So this podcast is supposed to be good. We're going to have some bumps and some different stuff along the road, but I'm excited about it. The name of the podcast comes from this notion of just like this revolutionary mindset where you start to discover knowledge in a deeper level, in a deeper way. And it's not going to be revolutionary in content per se. I might start talking about things that you might not have any idea of, and then the first time you hear it's from me and you're like, oh wow, that's a revolutionary concept. But for a lot of us, it's going to be pretty shallow stuff, pretty basic stuff. Now, as a pastor, I'm going to be coming at a lot of these things from a Christian and godly perspective as much as I can. That's not to shut off any unbelievers. I want this to be a pure discussion, and I want it to be just kind of talking about the truth of a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be just Christianity. I am not going to shut that off, but I'm also going to try not to amplify that. I do that on Sundays, and I do that as a pastor. So this is kind of a platform where it's, it's just kind of talking, and it's supposed to just be knowledge. And I was on Facebook the other day, and I was kind of talking about knowledge, and I felt something like in my mind, in my spirit, of knowledge is supposed to be shared. Knowledge is communal in its origin. It's supposed to be shared. And that's something that I feel very adamantly about. And, I think for a lot of people, they like to hoard the knowledge because they perceive knowledge to be power. which it is. Knowledge is power. But with this podcast, what I want to change that answer to is, instead of saying knowledge is power, to knowledge is freedom. I kind of think about knowledge as food. So think with me for a second. If you think about school and being in the home underneath your parents, and university, college, and all that kind of stuff, think about you living in a agricultural environment where you have people growing the food, you have people cutting up the food for you, and then it's served to you on a plate. And then every day you show up to school, every day that you're with your parents, they start to feed you that knowledge, they start to feed you that food. But what happens when you get out of that environment is you kind of fall into this hunter-gatherer society where the knowledge isn't readily at hand, and the knowledge isn't just being served to you on a plate. Now, sometimes you're going to find yourself in a position where you have to get fed. So let's say you're trying to get into another trade after you've had a job for a while. You're going to have to go back and get taught something by somebody else. Or you're going to have people in your life that want to mentor you. So they're going to come down and sit down with you with coffee and that kind of thing. But by and large, what you're going to need to do is get that knowledge for yourself. And something that I have seen in my own personal life is it's hard to find where that knowledge is. And this is kind of coming to the thesis of this entire purpose for the podcast. I believe that I have been given knowledge by others and given knowledge through experience that is beneficial to other people. So what I want to do, and what I believe is right, is whatever knowledge I consume, I want to give off. I want to kind of taking that hunter-gatherer mindset, going out into the woods and trying to find food and then bringing it back to other people and sharing it, because I believe that knowledge is sharing. Knowledge deserves to be shared. It needs to be shared. We shouldn't leave anybody in the dark. So that's kind of the reason for the entire podcast, is just to feed others what I've learned. And this isn't supposed to be a pro Sam Rambo podcast. This isn't to show you guys how smart I am. If you guys do think I'm smart, I appreciate that quite a bit, but that's not the point. The point isn't just to hear my voice. The point is for you to kind of get something out of it. This is a conversation. If you would like to talk to me, you can actually send some emails to this new email address that I made up. It's called revoknowledge@gmail.com, and I'll put that in the description of this video. But yeah, if you would like to be involved in this podcast in any way, just let me know. If you know me personally, you can DM me. If you don't know me personally, just use the email address. But this is going to be an exciting journey. It might not be awesome for a long period of time, but I'm excited to learn. I'm excited to teach. I'm excited to discuss. It's going to be a lot of fun and hopefully challenging for me and for you. What I don't like about life a lot of the time is how not challenging it is in some areas, and then it turns around and it's so hard. So in this podcast, what we want to do is just kind of keep it mellow, but at the same time challenge ourselves a little bit. So if you'd be interested in watching, please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be putting it on YouTube and Facebook. So if this is something that you'd like to be involved in, please give me a shout. We'll see what we can do. I just want to say thank you for everybody who is hopping on this video and watching. It's super special to be able to voice your opinion and to be able to voice what you want to say in this time. And, I always wanted to do a podcast, and I finally sucked it up and tried. So, yeah, thank you guys for hopping on, and I'll see you next time we make a video.